U.S. President Donald Trump's unprecedented demand for Ukraine to respond to a U.S.-backed 28-point peace proposal by Thanksgiving Day, November 27th, has thrown global diplomacy into turmoil. This aggressive move, coupled with thinly veiled threats to cut off vital American military and intelligence support, presents Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky with an existential and morally impossible choice: capitulate to Russian demands or risk isolation on the battlefield. Summary of the issue. President Trump, in a bid to force an immediate end to the war, has presented a 28-point framework reportedly drafted in consultation with Russian officials and largely absent of input from Kyiv or key European allies. The proposal, widely denounced as a capitulation deal, is centered on significant concessions from Ukraine: territorial cessions, de facto recognition of Russia's control over Crimea, Luhansk, and Donetsk, and a Ukrainian military withdrawal from the remaining parts of the Donbass region currently under Kyiv's control. Military limitations: capping the size of the Ukrainian armed forces, reported at 600,000 personnel, lower than current strength, and a commitment to forego NATO membership, which would be enshrined in both the Ukrainian constitution and NATO statutes. Amnesty and sanctions: granting a full legal amnesty for wartime actions and a multi-stage process for lifting sanctions on Russia, including its potential re-entry into the G8. Trump has publicly stated that November 27th is an appropriate deadline, pressuring Kyiv by suggesting that without acceptance, the war will continue until Ukraine inevitably loses the ceded territories anyway. Analysis: reasons and consequences. Reasons for the ultimatum. America first. Isolationism: Trump's core motivation aligns with his stated policy of prioritizing American domestic interests and reducing foreign entanglements. Ending the costly Ukraine conflict, even on unfavorable terms for Kyiv, removes a major source of American military and financial commitment. Perceived battlefield stalemate: the Trump administration appears to view the current conflict as a stalemate with no imminent Ukrainian military victory. This belief drives the conclusion that further American aid is futile and that a quick, negotiated settlement, even one requiring painful concessions, is the only realistic path. Appeasement to Russia: the heavily Russia-friendly elements in the plan, such as the territorial recognition and amnesty clauses, suggest a clear effort to secure an agreement that President Vladimir Putin would accept, signaling a shift in U.S. foreign policy toward prioritizing an expedient peace over international law and Ukrainian sovereignty. Immediate consequences: Kyiv's impossible dilemma. Zelensky faces a monumental decision. Rejecting the deal risks an abrupt termination of U.S. military aid, potentially leading to a catastrophic collapse of the front line, especially during the difficult winter months. Accepting it means violating the Ukrainian constitution, betraying the sacrifices made by its people, and surrendering sovereignty. Transatlantic fissures: the unilateral U.S. action and the nature of the peace plan have deeply alarmed European allies. Leaders from the UK, France, and Germany have cautiously pushed back, insisting that nothing about Ukraine without Ukraine, and that borders cannot be changed by force. This has created a significant strain on the NATO alliance and G7 unity, potentially eroding the collective security framework. De facto ratification of conquest: if accepted, the deal would effectively ratify Russia's conquest through aggression, setting a dangerous precedent in international relations that could encourage future territorial grabs by authoritarian regimes. Prediction and solutions. Political prediction: Ukraine is highly unlikely to accept the 28-point plan in its current form by the Thanksgiving deadline. Zelensky has already stated he will not betray Ukraine's interests. Delay and negotiate: Ukraine, supported by its European allies, will engage in the talks, scheduled for senior advisors in Switzerland, but will seek to dramatically amend the draft, focusing on security guarantees and rejecting all permanent territorial concessions. Deadline extension softening: the deadline itself will likely be softened or extended. Trump often uses arbitrary deadlines for dramatic effect, and positive movement in the advisory talks could serve as justification for a delay. Increased European support: faced with potential U.S. abandonment, European nations will ramp up their commitments to Ukraine, both militarily and financially, attempting to fill the gap left by an aid cutoff and preserve the principle of Ukrainian sovereignty. Potential solutions for Kyiv and allies. Unified counterproposal. Ukraine, working immediately with a unified front of European and other key G7 allies, must swiftly present a comprehensive, detailed, and non-negotiable counterproposal that adheres to international law, focuses on the existing line of contact as a starting point, and secures credible, enforceable security guarantees. Diversify aid. Kyiv must accelerate efforts to diversify its military and financial support away from sole reliance on the US, formalizing long-term defense pacts with European powers and the UK. Constitutional integrity. Zelensky must publicly stand firm on the principle that the Constitution prohibits making territorial changes while under martial law, using the legal constraint to justify rejecting the most damaging aspects of the deal. The Thanksgiving ultimatum is less a genuine peace initiative and more a test of political will, sovereignty, and the future cohesion of the Western alliance against authoritarian aggression.